Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Glenn Lamont. Welcome to Wallace Hartley Presents. It is Friday, April 24th, 07:26 in the morning. Getting started on my day, looking forward to the weekend, and I hope you're all doing well. If you're self-isolating, if you're staying at home, working from home, whatever you got going on, I hope you're hanging in there. Just a quick couple of things I want to cover. I realized this morning I've been pretty busy with work, as I'm sure all of us who are working on the front lines here in Vancouver, British Columbia, we're pretty wasted by the end of the week. And I'm no exception. But for some reason last night, it all of a sudden dawned on me because, I think about work. I think about, health and safety protocols at work, at home, all the stuff that we need to do to stay safe during this pandemic. And for some reason, it all of a sudden dawned on me, we're in the midst of this thing, and, it's pretty stressful. But I really have been feeling, like I am hanging in there and handling it as best as I can. I'm a pretty resilient guy. I've been through a lot of stuff. But then it just dawned on me last night. Oh my God, no baseball. No Vancouver Canadians at Nat Bailey Stadium this year. and then I got I got a little depressed. There's no major league stuff going on, no AAA, no nothing, no minors. And then that was so. That's how COVID-19 has affected me, people. No baseball. I'm upset about that. But I just really wanted to touch base this morning. There's a lot of stuff going on. So what has happened in Hong Kong? So we know that there's been so much, just out and out racism towards, unfortunately, Chinese people. Not the Chinese Communist Party, where really, if you have any, angst, it should be directed at them. So really, because this whole thing started in China, and from the beginning, I've been very hesitant when I hear about the cover-up, and China did not release the proper numbers, how many was sick, how many had died. And I was very hesitant to get on board that train, because it every single time, man, it just leads to racism. We have a history in this country and in America and in the UK and many other places around the world of racism. A country, Canada, is built on colonialism, and so I was very hesitant from the beginning, because then it just gives people who are already racist an opportunity and ammunition to go out there and point fingers and be assholes. And that's not fair to the very large, Chinese population and the Asian population in general here in Vancouver, because these morons don't know the difference. And they can't tell the difference between somebody who was born and raised here and, is like the backbone of our country, which is immigrants. They just don't know the difference. So I was always hesitant to jump in there. But, what has happened now in Hong Kong, because let's remember that we had things going on in the world before COVID-19. And one of those things that was happening was the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. And of course, we saw horrible shit there, right? I mean, they brought in the riot police. They had basically, sieges were happening with universities, and all kinds of stuff. But they kept up their vigils, and the world was kind of on their side. So what has happened? Well, we've been busy trying not to die and keep each other safe with this pandemic. China has moved on Hong Kong. They have arrested, most of the major players in the pro-democracy movement, but the major ones being 81-year-old. They arrested an 81-year-old man, Martin Lee, QC, Queen's Counsel. Jimmy Lai, who was the publisher, the big media guy, very pro-democracy, and Li Chuqian, who was the big union guy there. So they got them out of the way. Not to mention all their shenanigans in the South China Sea, making everybody nervous there with gunboat and landing strips that they built and all kinds of shit. But, the bottom line is that is a dictatorial regime. I don't think it really bears much resemblance to communism. It's just a dictatorship, and it's military, and it wants what it wants. And Canada, we have a really, as far as I'm concerned, not a very good relationship with China. And not because we're anti-China, but on the contrary, we don't stand up very well to them, and very timid in that respect. So and if you remember before all this started, with Meng Wanzhou, who was arrested here in Vancouver, I still believe wrongly, and I don't say wrongly because I think she's innocent. I say wrongly because I think they really just went to town on ignoring civil rights with the RCMP and CSIS, cooperating with the FBI, and it was it really was a shit show, right? But regardless, they took her into custody, and China turned right around and arrested the two Michaels, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor, who are still in detention. They have been so for 500 days now, or over 500 days. And Canada did, nothing about that other than, could you please let them go? And we know that the People's Republic, the Communist Party, didn't operate that way. They're like, you let one of ours go, we'll let one of yours go, kind of attitude. But either way, if you really want to get into that, there's a great podcast by CBC's Stephen Quinn called Sanctioned, The Arrest of a Telecom Giant. Check that out. But, the bottom line is, I never wanted to jump on board with all the conspiracy theories and all that stuff, because we have had, two, not one, but two Canadian politicians linked, try to link China and our chief medical officer in Canada, Dr. Theresa Tam, and because she's Chinese, she was born or in Hong Kong, or born in the UK and raised in Hong Kong, or the other way around. I'm not sure which. But the bottom line is, they were like, well, she's Chinese, she was, in bed with the who's in bed with China, it makes sense, all this crap. And that wasn't helpful. That wasn't helpful to anybody. It wasn't helpful when we were in the midst of a pandemic that we were, trying to figure out what to do with a virus that we'd never seen before. And we had these assholes, beacon off about, plain and simple racism. And then the head of the Canadian Conservative Party, Andrew Scheer, did dick, right? He was like, well, I'm not commenting on people who are running for office. And no, you're a wank and you're a racist as well. We know that. So I never wanted to jump on board with, pointing fingers at China because people are idiots and they will equate that with just the average, Asian person walking down the street. And I really wanted to avoid going down that road. Because, racism, this country, Canada, is built on it. Colonialism, and our relationship with First Nations and Indigenous people here in this country it's wretched, it's shameful. There are still, many reserves right across the country that don't have safe drinking water, haven't had in a long, long time. But don't get me started. I could do an entire series just on that, and I will eventually, but right now I wanted to bring that up. So I guess my point is, you're going to read about this, you're going to hear about it, and it might get you thinking, oh, those bastards over there, we can blame them. Well, I don't think you can blame them. You can blame people in their regime for sure, but you can't blame. So separate the Communist Party and the People's Republic of China, from the people in China, because they're two different things, right? You can't paint an entire nation with the same brush. And we have, like I said, a huge Asian population here in Vancouver. I think in the Pacific Northwest in general. Also, a pretty big Asian population in Toronto. And many people have been here for generations, and they have contributed probably more so than any other group in the history of this nation, fighting in wars for us and still not being recognized for it. And don't forget our history too. We did the same thing that America did during the Second World War. We rounded up all Japanese immigrants and Japanese-born Canadian-born Japanese, interned them, treated them like cattle, like animals, took all their possessions, never gave anything back, even after the war was over. So that's why I was hesitant from the word go to jump on that bandwagon about, finger pointing at China, because I wanted to avoid that. So I'm asking all of you to consider, the background here, and don't go down that road. This is not about also it's not about pointing fingers. It's about getting through this thing together, and I think we've done a very good job of that so far. It's about helping one another. It's about taking care of our most vulnerable in society. So I had to jump on that real quick because I was listening to CBC radio on the way in this morning, and I didn't know about. I just found out about this the arrests in Hong Kong. So there you go. And when I will get to see my beloved Vancouver Canadians play again, I don't know. And my other beloved Saitama Seibu Lions in Saitama Prefecture in Japan, where my in-laws are from and live in Tokorozawa. God knows when I'll get to see that either. So, baseball, man. Anyways, have yourselves a great weekend. Stay home, stay safe, be kind to one another. So much good stuff to watch on Netflix and all the other streaming services, try and find the time to do that. And be good to one another. And if you got time to do some grocery shopping for those who can't get out, do that. Volunteer where you can, if you can. You guys are awesome. Hang in there. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.